Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The Hey Chaplain podcast talks to interesting people in law enforcement who say, "Hey Chaplain, I've got a story to tell and some hard-earned wisdom to share." As a patrol chaplain in Kansas City, I think you need to hear encouragement, even on difficult topics. Hey Chaplain is a free resource for everyone because of those supporters who are quietly helping behind the scenes. For some time now, there have been a small number of people, both inside law enforcement and outside, who have been giving as little as $5 a month to help pay the expenses of this show. If you want to help this show reach more cops, chaplains, and other first responders around the world, please follow the link in the episode description to support the show. Today we have a really interesting topic. I want police officers to understand why chaplains exist, and I also want chaplains to understand how they can serve better. One of the best ways to get it is to listen to this conversation with a chaplain who has the right attitude and character. Our guest today is Kevin Shive. Kevin is a police chaplain from Golden, Colorado, and he is also the founder and executive director of Serving the Shield, formerly Rocky Mountain Police and Fire Chaplains. Kevin is going to share some great chaplain stories from the front lines, but we are also going to talk about vetting and even dismissing people who may not be fit to be chaplains. Here's Kevin Shive. Hello, Kevin. How are you today?
Doing good, Jared.
I'm glad you're here today. You traveled a long ways just to record here in Kansas City.
Yes, just to be here with you.
Kevin's actually here for a conference, and we stole away for just a few hours so we could record. And Kevin, I'd like to hear, why are you a police chaplain?
That's a loaded question, Jared. It has to probably start with why I became a pastor. And it, for me, didn't want to. It was kind of the last thing that I really had on my horizon. And then all of a sudden, God flipped a switch. And the switch was, I want you to be around people. I want you to show people what it looks like to be a follower of Christ. I want you to get in the middle of their business. I used to work for some bigger organizations that put on big conferences. And I still remember that moment where I looked out, there's 20,000 people, we had a number of God moments, and then they all left. And I had no idea what was going to be going on in their world after that. And that's, I think, where God started changing my heart of being more pastoral in my role. And then 19 years ago, the chief of police, Bill Kilpatrick, came to us as pastors in the community. We had 2 suicides, and he had met with one of his officers who said, I think we should go and see if we can get these pastors to become chaplains. And from there, I was like, I'm just going to give this a look. There's no way I would ever be accepted into becoming a chaplain because if you know me or you're listening to this, you're thinking, how did he ever become a pastor, for one? And then 2, how in the world did this dude ever clear background checks? Because I did some things in my youth that I'm not proud of. So when I actually had to sit down and write out all the stuff, they ask you those questions. Have you ever done anything felonious or misdemeanor that you've not been caught for, that you've been caught for? We'll just say I had to ask for a few more pieces of paper for my truth verification process and the lie detector and all that kind of jazz. So I came kicking and screaming into chaplaincy too. I didn't want to do it because I was afraid of it. It was intimidating. They had guns, and let's just face it, cops are a little quirky.
Yeah.
They got their own style of things. But then as I got into it, that switch clicked on again. And all of a sudden, I found an affinity, a passion. I saw that this was the place that I could be missional in my minute. Like, I'm standing in my congregation, I'm telling my people, you got to go out.
Yes.
You got to change the world. And I figured that might mean me too, right? Yeah. So as a pastor, I should probably go and find that same way to accomplish the Great Commission and share this message of hope that we have.
I've had the exact same thing. I am naturally an introvert, My energy is exhausted dealing with people. And so you go through a Sunday morning and you're so worn out by that as a pastor. And so my inclination is to retreat to my office, hide behind all of my books, and come back out like the groundhog on Groundhog Day, and come back out on Sunday and preach and genuinely love people, but get worn out by it. And so I found myself in a pattern 10 years ago of like, I am not engaged in my community at all. And this police chaplain thing was in front of me for a long time. My predecessor had been a police chaplain. And so I'd known about it for years. And I thought, man, I think this is what I'm being called to do to get me out and engage people. And then kind of like you were saying, I didn't have the long list. In fact, my criminal background check has been described as adorable. And so, yeah.
That's adorable.
It's adorable. Yeah. But I went in a place where I was a fish out of water, and police can be a little hard to get to know. They're kind of standoffish. They will push you away to see if you can be pushed away. And so fortunately, God, I think, put it on my heart to love those people. And so I did not let myself be pushed away. And it sounds like you're describing a very similar kind of dynamic.
Absolutely. I'm going to share a story of what happened yesterday with a little backstory. When I showed up, it was my first, we'd gone through everything. We got the cool shirt that said Chaplain on it. I'm walking through the halls, and this officer comes up, and he's like, "Who are you?" I was like, I'm Kevin. I'm your chaplain. And he put his hand on his gun, and he looked me square in the eyes, and he said, "You're never getting in my effing car." And with my hand shaking, I was like, see, this is why I didn't want to do this. But fast forward, I told this story yesterday to his 8-year-old son, who we were baptizing at the creek. So you're going to see the ending right there. A couple weeks later, he said, "Hey, all right, you can get in my car, but we're not talking about God." And the dude wouldn't shut up about God for 2 hours, to the point where I actually had to stop and say, "Hey, just so you know, you're the one asking all these questions." He had History Channel and all these archaeological discoveries. And what I found out is he was a skeptic. Yeah. He was curious, which I think a lot of our cops are. Because if you're in this world for long enough, you see bad, and you hope there's good. And I think that's what we as chaplains get to do. Fast forward a little bit more, he ends up meeting a gal, and they're going to get married, and then asks me to officiate the wedding. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I'd love to, but the only way I'll do it is if we do premarital counseling, and I'm going to ask you, where do you think God should be in your marriage?" And he agreed to it. And so last night, at the creek behind the police station in Golden, Colorado, I baptized him, his wife, and his son. So from the cop putting his hand on his gun, "You're never getting in my effing car," to I'm baptizing him 19 years later, I think just as a great testimony to the impact that we can have, but also the skepticism. I mean, there's a lot of skeptical folks out there in law enforcement about what do chaplains really do.
Yeah. Now, and I kind of feel that I can identify with that. I'm naturally skeptical. Now, I'm a person of faith, but I don't believe everything. I mean, there's all kinds of wacky ideas out there that I scoff at, and I think it's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. Now, I believe the Bible, but there's lots, like I said, a long list of things that I would be very, very skeptical of. And so I can relate to people who feel like they are constantly lied to, and they're constantly searching for the truth to solve a case or what have you. And I can identify with that. That seems like common ground to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm skeptical too. You don't be a pastor for 25 years and not be a little skeptical. I mean, there's times I joke with folks in my church in Golden. It's like, I would love to do premarital counseling, or I'd love to do like marriage counseling, but I need a taser, a ticket book, and a truth verification machine. And I guarantee you, we would get a lot further along in these counseling sessions. It hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, so. People lie to cops. People lie to pastors too. Yeah, and they do frequently. And you can get kind of jaded and cynical about that, about people, because it's another thing. People don't call the pastor because, hey, I need to call you at 1:00 in the morning because things are going great.
Right.
We don't get those calls. We get calls when things are falling apart, and they should have called us for help years ago, months ago. And instead, they've waited till things have gotten catastrophically bad. Then they call us.
Absolutely.
And cops can identify with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think cops and pastors, oddly, are fairly close in some of the things that we do. Like one of the verses I use, it's right after John 3:16, but John 3:19, here's the verdict. Light has come into the world, but darkness does not want to see or participate in the light out of fear that its deeds would be exposed. And so I think like whoever gets a cop that pulls in behind them on the road, I don't care who you are, if a state patrol officer pulls in behind you, you're starting to worry.
Yeah.
State patrol guys are going to give their moms a ticket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's
hardcore.
They're hardcore. And if they got boots on and they're on a motorcycle, I mean, you're getting a ticket no matter what. But I think that's that dynamic that we're similar because pastors shine light into worlds. Our officers run with lights and sirens into the darkest part of our communities. And in that, I think there is a biblical thing, like we talk about Romans 13, they're God's extension of his hand of justice. And actually some versions call them avengers, which I'm like, they're superheroes. They literally are superheroes that are going out to protect the people that can't protect themselves.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me, what's it like to be a chaplain in Golden, Colorado?
I've come to the point where I've just decided that every place is about the same. The crime exists where people exist. That depravity of mankind it's everywhere. And so I love it because I get to really dig in and get to know these people in a way that otherwise I wouldn't. Going back to, just chaplaining in the many different areas that we at Serving the Shield get to chaplain at. One of the stories that just came to mind actually was our clinicians had called me up and they had one of our officers from a neighboring agency who had been involved in 2 shootings. This gal had shot 2 people in the matter of about a month and a half. And she was sitting there and talking to a counselor, and the counselor was unable to answer her questions because she started asking, well, what does God think of me? I mean, God obviously can't be happy with me right now because I just shot 2 people. And so the counselor called me up and said, hey, can you come by and help unpack this? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. So got to go in, sat down, and through that brought up that verse, that Romans 13 verse. And I watched her countenance change because you get to help her see that as an officer, you are the one and you're protecting people. Yeah. And those who are doing right should have no fear over law enforcement, but those who do wrong should. Yeah. And then she said, well, isn't Jesus like all just love? And so then I took her to Revelation 19. And I said, well, here's another picture of Jesus coming out of the clouds, riding on a horse with a sword out of his mouth, tattoos on his leg, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and he's coming to tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God Almighty. And she was like, that's Jesus? I was like, yeah. And that's what sometimes you have to do as a cop. You have to tread the winepress of this wrath because God has put you here to protect people that can't protect themselves.
If anyone's missing the metaphor there, the wine press are squeezing the blood out of people. And so it's a very bloody image.
It is a very bloody one. Yeah, you might have to edit that out later. No, for me, most recently, we had an officer who was killed in the line of duty. His name's Evan Dunn from Missouri, actually Springfield. His wife I know from another agency that I work at, and it was just the worst night, the night that everybody dreams and hopes would never happen. And I got a call from my chief at 5:19, and I just sat down with my wife for dinner, and he said, we got 2 officers trapped under a vehicle on Highway 58, and I knew right away it's going to be a long night. I knew that we were going to have to be caring for a lot of people, and en route to the hospital found out that one of them had died. We just didn't know which one at this point.
Yeah.
And so going into the hospital and seeing my officers who were still drenched in the blood of their comrade, their fellow officer because they were on the ground with him, like holding his hand and comforting him, and then also comforting Bethany, bruising.
Can you describe the scenario? Is it a highway accident? Is it a mountain road? Is it a what's the scenario?
It feels a little mountainy. It's right in one of the main sections of Golden. It was a snowy night. And so there was a traffic accident that had occurred and some motorist assists that were going on. So multiple vehicles. We had staged cars well far enough away for anybody to see our lights so they could slow down. It's snowing. They should slow down anyways. And then an individual who had been drinking for most of the day. We didn't know that at the time, but we found that out pretty quickly after just looking at all of the evidence that he had been a pretty professional drinker. And he just was going probably 20 or 30 over what he should have been doing at the time, rounded the corner, and just smashed into the vehicle. Trapping our two officers and also really seriously injuring two pedestrians that were there as well. And and so it took time. That's a messy situation in a lot of different ways. Our fire department also is the ones that are responding and trying to lift a vehicle off of someone that we're pretty sure was killed instantly.
Yeah.
But then another officer who is alive and awake and aware of everything that's going on, but wants to get out from under that car as bad as possible.
Yeah.
And that was tense. So showing up at the hospital, I'm with my people, and I had someone come up and say, "Hey, you need to go talk to this guy. His name's Tanner, and he's Bethany's boyfriend." I'd never met Tanner, and I stood with him at the doorway when they wheeled Bethany in, and we both saw her for the first time. And I think we both would look back and say we didn't think she was going to do well at this moment. So they rushed her around and checking every vital and took her up for a CT scan and all that kind of stuff. And I had to give him a hug because now we have to go to my officer's widow's home and deliver the news to her. So me and my chief went and I spent the evening with her and just making sure that she got what she needed and got friends and family. Yeah. I called someone from work to make sure that they were there to just care for her. I mean, that was the hardest moment, but then you fast forward. And then I got to do Bethany and Tanner's wedding. And so the worst day.
How much time after the accident?
It was within a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they got engaged 6 or 7 months later, and then marriage in Estes Park, and just this gorgeous, taking things that are dead and bringing it to life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of what we as chaplains do. We have to take the worst scenario and try to help make sense, even when it's nonsensical.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have happened. But that's, I think, where chaplains really thrive, is in that moral injury where you think the world ought to look this way, and now all of a sudden it looks different.
Yeah. Well, and helping make sense sometimes, and I'm a teacher. I want to explain things, and I do that sometimes. Other times, though, I'm just sitting Shiva. I am just there. I'm present, and this is bad, and it's ugly, and it's tragic, and no one thinks otherwise. But we're in this together, and we're going to be in this moment, and we're just strong for each other. And my officers are strong for me, and I'm strong for them, and we're just going to get through this. And there's not really any words in some of those cases, but in both cases, we're helping in a way that is not always available to officers. A lot of times, officers go through something tragic, and they have no answers, no explanations, no comfort, no presence of anybody that understands. And I think that's what chaplains do.
Absolutely.
So I've heard you tell a story that exemplified, it was the wiping the blood off the officer's boots.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a rough night. We basically had 2 pit bulls that got loose and mauled an 80-year-old grandma that they belonged to, same family, and attacked kids as well. And our cops showed up and do what our cops do. They made the scene safe, but they were unable to use their guns. They had to go to less lethal because there were houses behind it. So they're basically standing side by side to this 80-year-old grandma who has been eaten laying beanbags into these dogs to keep them at bay so that they could actually get in and get her out. I made it to the PD as they were coming back, and they were cleaning themselves off. They got blood on them, and as you would in a situation like this. And so I just grabbed the wet wipes and said, let me help get you clean, and got on my hands and knees and started cleaning blood off of one of my officer's boots. And I could feel the teardrops, not a lot, but there were one or two. And I looked at them, and they had to be back operational.
Yeah.
Because they had to get back out, but we just wanted to do a quick little get together. And that was revolutionary for me. I mean, that's the epitome of what chaplains do.
Yeah.
We're servants. We're going to serve our officers, their families, their kids, and sometimes the most difficult thing. And I didn't say a word. I got on my knees and just started cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I could have said anything that would have made that better, like what you were saying in that moment, just that presence of being there. Yeah.
But it moved those officers emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
That you were present as a chaplain.
Very much. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen that time and time again. We have a combined SWAT team, and, when you have a shooting, the command shows up, lawyers show up, and all they're talking about is liability, what's going on. I show up, and I'm like, what do you need? I remember this one very distinctly. SWAT commander, I looked him in the eyes, like, what do you need? He's like, I need Skittles and energy drinks right now. And I was like, I can do that, right? Another incident, we had 3 of our officers involved in a shooting. This one hit the news. So I've got spouses calling me now because they had everything taken away because they had been shot at. There was blood everywhere. The news is reporting that a Golden officer has been shot, but I'm with all 3 of them, confirming that they're not having to tell spouses they're fine.
Right.
And one of my guys, he liked chewing Copenhagen.
Yeah.
But they took that away too. And he was just sitting in there. He's like, he was so frustrated because that was his, no pun intended, his coping mechanism. Yeah. And so I looked at the chief. I was like, I'm going to go buy him a can of Coke. We're going to go out and walk because he needs to get out of this room or we're going to cause more trauma. And so that was an instance for me where I'm showing up, I'm just seeing the person. I'm not worried about the shoot. I'm not worried about the tactics. I'm just walking and standing in front of you, and I'm saying, what do you need right now?
Talk to me about organizing chaplains. You guys got asked almost 20 years ago, hey, come in here and be chaplains for us. How did that develop, and what's been your role?
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, lots of ups and downs, but we have seen God's favor. As I think we're seeing probably across the United States, a favor towards people accepting and being more open to having spiritual care. In the early years, I had no idea what I was doing, so I cut my teeth with ICPC. I did my first ride-along in Grand Rapids at one of their events, and it was great. But then realized that there just wasn't a lot of ICPC in our region, so we just decided, let's create something. Yeah. And in creating it, having the opportunity to really define what we were creating, and excellence was one of the big things. Consistency, responsibility, ministry of presence. Having like our cops train all the time, regularly, and we got to make sure that we're not providing chaplains that aren't prepared, that come ill-equipped. We want to make sure that we provide to these agencies the highest level of individual that's going to be caring for them and sometimes their worst moment. And so we just started dreaming, and it really started with probably 4 or 5 different agencies in our area, and it has grown. We just had our annual meeting. We had 200 some people attend, 30 partners, 10 states. And so my goal is just to continue moving forward, organizing in such a way where our officers are truly getting, their families are truly getting what they deserve.
Okay.
The best care possible.
So did this start in Golden specifically?
It did.
Okay. And then it became a Rocky Mountain kind of regional.
It did. It became pretty apparent. We had the Aurora Theater shooting. And I'm calling out there to Aurora PD and Aurora chaplains, and they wouldn't answer my call and wouldn't call me back. And then a short time in that window, we also had these big floods in the Boulder County. And I'm calling up the lead chaplain for the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, and he wouldn't call me back. And then I realized there's no relationship here. And so the start of it was, we've got to get together. We've got to all recognize we're on the same team. So Jared, you as a chaplain here in Kansas City, you represent me in Golden. If you do something here, it's going to be negatively or positively part of how people see chaplaincy all across the United States. And so that was a start. Let's get organized. Let's network together so that when I do call these people, they're going to say, hey, Kev, yeah, we could use your help. But the only reason they're going to open that up to allow me to be around their people, to build this out in a way. Now we've got regions. We've got about 15 regions in just Colorado. And then we've got state coordinators in each of the 10 states that we're working with, because I want to make sure that the French fries taste the same everywhere, right? And so that's quality control.
Yeah.
Really hard to do. But if you walk into a Chick-fil-A or you go through a Chick-fil-A drive-through, I mean, they're on it, right?
Yeah. It's going to be the same.
It's going to be the same. And you walk into a McDonald's and every McDonald's smells the same. Their French fries taste the same. I think that we owe it to our folks to create and have that expectation of ourselves as chaplains. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's okay to say, you shouldn't be a chaplain. like this doesn't fit. And I love your heart and you're a good person, but this is a very unique calling. It is very special in a way that you've got to make sure that you are made out of the right material to be able to get in a car and drive 100 miles an hour towards chaos.
I've seen a lot of chaplains where I'm suspicious of why they're interested.
Yeah. And
I kind of, and stereotypically, the one that always stands out is the one that kind of wants to be a cop.
Yes.
And it's like, boy, they must have missed the academy or got kicked out of the academy or whatever. And they are trying to fulfill something that's missing.
Absolutely.
And that always sets me on edge a little bit. I was never someone to want to be a cop. I didn't even play cops and robbers as a kid. That was just not an interest I ever had. I was not ever thinking about law enforcement. Now I dearly love them, but I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
I want to be what I'm doing. Right. And so that's a difficult, that's a distinct line that needs to be respected. And occasionally I'll run into a chaplain that doesn't seem like they're aware of that line.
Yep.
And they think they are the super secret squirrel, super sleuth.
Right.
That bothers me.
It should bother you.
Yeah. I don't know how to address that. You've dealt with this before.
We have. We deal with it a couple different ways. It was pretty disappointing when I started. We were trying to expand. We'd meet with different agencies, and I'd sit down with chiefs and commanders, and I'd ask them, what are you the most afraid of? And they would say, we don't want any weirdos. Right. I mean, after the 12th time, I thought to myself, what are we doing? Yeah. We're presenting ourselves to this environment as being a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
My first year, it was pretty funny. My chief at the time was agnostic at best. Uh-huh. And we got a chief star that first year. And I still tease him to this day. He works out at the rec center. But it basically was, I thought you might be good, kind of, but I was really worried. I took a risk on you and you didn't screw it up. Thank you. Here's the chief star. And I was like, what a great thing. So maybe some of the training that we do is deprogramming.
Yeah.
Because as a pastor, or even as a former law enforcement officer, I'm hoping that there's some cops out there that might actually want to be chaplains in the future.
Yes. Yes.
But you can't become a chaplain as a cop to fix the problems and the things you didn't do right.
Yeah.
There is a calling to it. And yes, you might fix some of those things, but your agenda's got to be purely driven not to be selfish in the matter.
Yeah.
For pastors, like in your pulpit, Jared, you can say whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, what do?
They can leave.
They can leave.
Yeah.
But as a chaplain, I serve at the pleasure of the chief or the sheriff. So I've got to understand what their expectations are. And we talk about this thing called the Daniel principle. Daniel in the Bible served multiple kings from Judea to Babylonian to Persian. And how did he do it? Why did he do it? Well, he never defiled himself. And he always maintained himself as a man of tact and wisdom. Mm-hmm. And in that, I think people just kept saying, where's that guy? We can't answer this question. Someone go find that guy or that gal. And I think for us as chaplains, you want to be that rather than the weirdo. So we do oral boards. No one comes into our system without going through a background check, without filling out an application, without going through an oral board. And if it's with an agency, we'll usually bring the most skeptical cop. Like bring the guy that's going to put his hand on his gun and say, "You're never getting into my effing car," right? Yeah. He needs to sit on that oral board because they're going to be able to have that sniff test to be able to tell whether or not this individual is authentic and truly wants to do it for the right reasons.
Is there a point at which you've trained and invested and somebody has passed enough background checks that if they fail and they become weird again, they just need to be retrained? Or is there ever a point? Is anybody capable of just going off the rails enough that they need to stop being a chaplain?
Yes. I mean, obviously we want to retrain. We all need to be trained. We all might have something that's gone in our lives that we've just forgotten.
But nobody gets chaplain tenure.
They shouldn't. I don't think they should. If you're not capable of doing the job any longer, and I think there's seasons in chaplaincy, like you and I are kind of, can I say we're in our prime?
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm still in my 40s. And so, yeah.
Well, okay, I'm older than you. I might be more on my downhill turn, but I feel like my role is to be someone that's going to then prop up the younger chaplains. Yeah. I think we need younger chaplains. We need 35. That's when I started at 35. It was a great age.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're doing things wrong, and I think some agencies are afraid, well, we don't want to tick off God, and they're only volunteers, so we'll put up with it at the harm of really caring for our officers, staff, and families. My response would be, no, get better people.
Yeah.
And so, like, I literally was in an interview one time with this guy. You can cut this out if you don't like this story, but we were interviewing in this city. Part of their policy was they had to send out a citywide email, which is the best way to get all the weirdos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So generally what we do is we'll ask cops, okay, hey, do you go to a church and do you like your pastor or do you have a ministry coordinator there? One of my best chaplains, her name's Ashley. She was a children's ministry coordinator. Later, I found out that she worked with sex traffickers in Los Angeles. So she had this background. I sat down with her. I'm like, you're a children's ministry coordinator? Why do you want to be a chaplain? It just didn't jive for me. But she was a woman of character.
Yeah.
And so we're not always going after senior pastors. We're going after men's and women's ministry leaders, those that have put the time in that have character. And that goes back to the Daniel principle. He was a man of character.
Yeah.
And so we want to find those people. And I feel like if you find folks with character, you can train them how to do the tactics of chaplaincy.
What disqualifies a chaplain?
I think the disqualification would be jeopardizing the character in which they're supposed to hold. You are an ambassador of hope. You are someone that represents God. And we really push that we don't want to be proselytizing. We don't want to be evangelizing. But chaplains need to be a witness.
Yeah.
So 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an account of the hope that you have when people ask. Yeah. And so that's that dynamic of showing up in these agencies and being a witness. I think the best compliment I got after walking through Evan Dunn's death and Bethany Grusing's injury, and they just said, we saw you and we just felt peace. We just knew you brought peace to the situation, a calmness and a security. And so I think that's what we want to watch for in people. Like if you lose that, if you start showing up and it's becoming more chaotic,
yes.
If you're showing up and you feel like it's about you, then you're missing the picture.
Yeah. That's what I fear too with new chaplains, because a lot of clergy are used to being upfront in the spotlight with everybody's attention on them. And that can be a drug that's hard to kick. If you can be a chaplain, it means that you can be behind the scenes. You can be incognito and be okay with that.
Yeah.
That when you're doing this very meaningful, important work and the television crew shows up and they're like, excuse me, sir, because they're trying to get to what they think the story is, and you're okay with it.
Yes.
You don't need to stop and say, no, wait, you should hear my commentary. You should see the work I'm doing.
Right.
You have to be able to resist that, even though your day job maybe at a church may be to give commentary.
Yes.
But that's not your role as a chaplain. And I'm looking for the men and women who get that and can understand that, and they can get on their hands and knees and wipe the blood off of an officer's boots.
Yes.
Kevin, thank you for coming in today and making that incredibly long trip just to see me.
Just to see you.
I appreciate it.
You're that important, Jared. You're that important.
Thank you. I want to thank Kevin for being on the show, and I especially want to thank him for the work that he's doing. Serving the Shield is teaching and guiding chaplains to help them understand what the mission of first responder chaplaincy really is. They're doing all kinds of good work in training and giving support to chaplain organizations around the country. If you want to find out more information about Kevin and about Serving the Shield, you can find that at servingtheshield.com. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain. And as always, let's pray for peace in our cities.